Every night, he sipped coffee alone, revealed the hidden story of the inspiring CEO's single dad. Jake Thompson sat at his kitchen table, the steam rising from his coffee cup, each breath bringing him closer to the memories of a life that could have been. The clock ticked softly, but it felt like a heavy hand reminding him of every moment spent without her. Outside, the town lay shrouded in silence, but in that stillness, Jake felt an aching vibrancy for his daughter, Lily. Her laughter echoed in his mind, a sweet melody that kept him going. At just 7, she was the spark of joy in his solitary world, a light that chased away the shadows of his late wife's absence. He was a single dad, a CEO of a promising tech startup in a quaint Midwestern town caught in the crosshairs of change. As he sipped his coffee, he thought of the small shops lining the main street, the family-owned businesses struggling to adapt and survive in the face of his company's innovations. It pained him, the heavy rumbles of discontent brewing from the community, a community he loved, where he'd grown up, where he'd played as a child. They viewed him not as a benefactor but as a threat, his ambitions seen as selfish exploits that would crush their dreams. The night grew darker, and Jake found himself pacing the kitchen, the consequence of worry gnawing at his gut. Tomorrow night, the town would gather for a tense town hall meeting. Old friends would turn into adversaries, their faces drawn and suspicious. They'd voice fears that felt almost palpable, raw feelings that made his heart race. What would they say? Would they understand that every move he made was not just for profit, but for his daughter's future? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jake envisioned the crowd, faces hard with anger and disappointment, as he prepared his speech. It mattered every word would be a bridge woven with hopes of collaboration and understanding. The initiative he planned to unveil was about more than tech, it was about restoring the pulse of the town they all loved. But could he make them see it? Could he stand against the tide of suspicion and prove that he wasn't here to exploit, but to uplift? As he poured another cup of coffee, he caught a glimpse of Lily fast asleep, her face peaceful against the pillow, a soft reminder of what he had to fight for. Stay strong, he whispered to her in the quiet of the night, not just for her sake but for his entire community. The next evening, as he took the stage, a sensation of weight pressed heavy upon his chest. He felt their eyes piercing through him. This moment, this entire effort, rested upon his shoulders, and failure felt like a gnawing fear creeping in. He had to hold true to his mission. Would it be enough? As the first objections ricocheted around the room, Jake found himself standing at the crossroads of aspiration and doubt. Would the bridge he hoped to build be just another dream swept away by the swirling tide of change? The murmurs of the crowd swirled around Jake like a whirlwind, each voice carrying a weight of skepticism and doubt. He stood at the podium, feeling the floor beneath him as unsteady as his resolve. How could he break through the noise, reach their hearts, and share his vision for a shared future? "Thank you all for coming," he began, his voice shaking slightly. "I know that change can feel threatening. I feel it too." He glanced around the room, the faces of familiar neighbors twisted with apprehension. "But I want you to see something in me, something you might have forgotten. I'm not here to take away what you've built. I want to build alongside you." There it was, that flicker of hope sparking in the back of his mind. He fought against the tide of doubt surging forward, propelling him to fight harder. He talked about the changes his tech could bring, the jobs it could create, the collaborations that could thrive if they embraced rather than resisted. But with every point he made, voices cracked like thunder overhead. "You think you know what's best for us, Jake? You're not one of us anymore," shouted a local business owner, a man he once called a friend. The anger in his voice stung, twisting in Jake's gut. We should preserve our roots, not uproot them," yelled another, waves of resentment crashing against him. With each objection, the air in the room thickened, and despair threatened to swallow him whole. Where he saw potential, they saw peril. Was he wrong? Was his dream of innovation really just a fantasy that would crush their town? And then he remembered Lily. Her wide eyes watched every moment with excitement. She believed in him, and she believed in their town. "Think of our children," Jake implored, voice rising above the tumult. "They deserve a future that doesn't just maintain the status quo. They deserve a chance to grow, to thrive, to chase their dreams." Silence fell. It wasn't a blanket of acceptance but a mixture of contemplation and uncertainty. Jake took in the sight of the crowd, parents and shopkeepers, people whose smiles once greeted him in the morning light. Could he reach them? He continued, pouring his heart out, invoking images of a community united, of workshops where kids learned tech and art together, a revitalized town square thriving with markets and unfolding stories. "There's a place for all of us in this," he said, and for the first time, Jake's voice didn't quiver. It resonated in the room. His vision was more than a pitch, it was a lifeline. But just as he felt the tide beginning to shift, the tension in the room fractured again. "You have to prove to us you care, Jake," said a soft voice from the back, almost lost in the echo of objections. "You say you want to help, but do you truly see us?" He paused, letting that sink in. Could he prove he cared beyond his words? That question loomed over him like a storm cloud. Would he have the chance to show them? As he walked off the stage, a mix of confusion and hope swirled within him. The battle was far from over, and the looming doubt returned. Back home, would Lily's innocence still shine brightly while Jake grappled with the shifting tides of trust? The road ahead promised to be treacherous. Would he be able to rise to the challenge for her and the community he loved? With the echoes of the night fresh in his mind, Jake knew the real fight was just beginning. How could he bridge the gap between his ambitions and the fears of the people? He had to find a way, before it was too late. Jake stepped out into the chilly evening air, heart still racing from his speech. The weight of uncertainty rested heavily on his shoulders as he walked towards his car, the murmurs of the crowd echoing in his head. Each voice sounded like a reminder of what he had once known: friendship, trust, and a community that had shaped him. But had he strayed too far? Was he lost in striving for something greater? He slid into the driver's seat, running a hand through his hair, trying to steady his thoughts. Lily's face flashed in his mind, that innocent smile, filled with unwavering belief. She was his bright light, guiding him through the haze of indecision. "I have to do this for her," he whispered to himself, raising his eyes to the road ahead. But as he drove home, the distance felt endless. Jake recalled the night he had sat with Lily on the porch, their small town sprawling before them under a canvas of stars. He had shared his dreams with her, and she had listened with rapt attention, mesmerized. "Daddy, can we make our town the best place ever?" she had asked, her eyes sparkling with hope. "Absolutely, sweetheart," he had replied, without a second thought. Now he had to keep that promise. When he arrived home, the soft light from Lily's bedroom spilled into the hallway. She was still awake, just as he knew she would be. As he stepped into her room, he saw her tucked under a blanket, her favorite stuffed bear clutched tightly in her arms. "Daddy!" she exclaimed, sitting up, her excitement breaking through the exhaustion that painted his face. "Did you talk to everyone? Did they believe you?" Jake sat at the edge of her bed, his heart breaking at the sight. Her innocent anticipation clashed with his turmoil. They had a lot of fears, Lily. But I tried to show them how we can make things better." "Did you tell them about the playground?" she asked, with an expectant grin. "The one we could build by the library?" He felt the smile creeping onto his face despite the storm within. "Yes, I did. Just like you imagined. But they don't see it yet." Lily's brow furrowed as she contemplated his words. Maybe they just need to see it for real. Can we draw it out? Then they'll understand. Drawing it out is a fantastic idea, Lil. Jake couldn't help but be inspired by her enthusiasm. We can gather people, have a little fair, and show them our dream. Her eyes sparkled like the stars outside. Yes. We can invite everyone. And then they'll want to help. As they sat together, Jake felt the flickers of hope reigniting within him. Lily's innocent faith was warming a part of him he thought had gone cold. Together, they could create something real. After promising to help her with the drawing, he tucked her back under the covers, his heart lighter. The gathering was a chance to bridge the gap, to transform their dreams into visible actions. This would take work. He needed to show the community he wasn't just talk, he was invested. But despite the fluttering hope inside him, a gnawing fear still lingered. Would they come? Would they truly be willing to see beyond their skepticism? Jake stepped quietly out of Lily's room, the night air cooled with promise. He didn't have all the answers yet, but with Lily by his side, he felt ready to start building that bridge. As he poured himself a cup of coffee in the kitchen, a wave of determination washed over him. It was right there, the spark of an idea setting to flame. What if I could show them our vision in a way they couldn't ignore? With a determined heart, he recalled his mother's words. Words can inspire, but actions make a difference. Tomorrow, he would take a step further. Preparing to face the community again wouldn't be easy, but maybe, just maybe, they could be brought together on common ground. Yet, as he turned off the kitchen light, a question lingered in the back of his mind. Could one single fair really change everything, or would it just be another empty promise lost in the swirl of uncertainty? As dawn broke, Jake's resolve solidified like cement. The idea of the fair began to color his thoughts, filling him with a sense of urgency. He brewed another cup of coffee, the rich aroma wrapping around him like a warm blanket. Today would be a day of action, not just dreams. He gathered his supplies, paper, markers, and some colorful posters he had saved from last year's community event. Each item held a potential he could almost taste. Together, they could be transformed into a visualization of the dreams he and Lily had cultivated. After breakfast, he called a meeting at the small gazebo in the park, an ideal place for the gathering. His hands trembled slightly as he slid the flyer into neighbors' mailboxes. Simple words jumped off the page: join us for a community fair. Let us build a better future together. He didn't know if anyone would show up, but the thought of his daughter's smiling face pushed him on. He could almost hear her cheering him on, reminding him of the hope that lived in all of them. As the day stretched on, Jake decided to put out a challenge to himself. He would talk to people personally, rather than relying solely on posted flyers. He approached Mrs. Thompson on her porch, an elderly woman with a sharp mind and a soft heart. Mrs. Thompson, he began, do you think the town could use a new playground? She looked over her glasses at him, skepticism etched in her features. Well, Jake, that depends. People have complained before. They want change, but just talking about it never seems to work. I agree, he replied, suddenly passionate. But this time, I'm not just talking. We're gathering everyone, sharing our vision. It's time to show what we can create together. Her expression softened as she listened. You have a lot of ambition, son. I'll think about it. Encouraged, Jake moved on to the next house, stopping at the Johnsons'. They had 3 kids who were always looking for adventure. He knocked and soon they emerged, puzzled but curious. Hey, would you all be interested in joining a fun day to help build a playground? Lily and I have a plan. He explained their vision, the excitement bubbling in his voice. Why not? The oldest son shrugged, glancing at his father. Sounds awesome. The father nodded in agreement. Why not give the kids something to do? As the day slipped into evening, Jake felt lighter but anxious. The questions still wove through him: would these conversations lead to action? What if the community didn't come? Each encounter fueled his concerns, yet he couldn't shake the image of Lily's face. Returning home, he found her curled up with a book, every bit the dreamer he wanted to inspire. "Daddy, did they say yes?" she asked, eyes wide with hope. "Not yet, sweetheart, but we're planting seeds." His heart glowed with her belief. After dinner, he spread out all the drawings and made a plan to showcase their dream. He sketched brightly colored images of swings, slides, and a sandy pit as Lily watched attentively. "This is just the beginning," he said, trying to reassure them both. But doubt began to gnaw at him again. What if nobody saw the potential? What if he failed to keep that promise he had made on the porch long ago? As they cleaned up, he locked eyes with her, that brightness making him feel alive again. "We'll be ready to show everyone something beautiful, won't we?" "Of course, Daddy." She beamed, and for a moment, his fears melted away. But as night enveloped them, creating shadows across the room, a question loomed larger than before: could hope turn into reality? What if this fair became a crucible for change, or would it just be another flicker of a dream that faded away? Jake clenched his fists, determined not to let the darkness win. The next morning, Jake rose earlier than usual, the sun just beginning to peek over the horizon. He could feel the pulse of his heart racing in anticipation. Today was crucial. He made a quick breakfast for Lily, her favorite pancakes, and watched her dive into them with enthusiasm. The sight of her joy filled him with more motivation than caffeine ever could. "Daddy," she said between bites, "will there be games at the fair?" "Absolutely. A lot of fun activities," he assured her. "Just like the ones you love at the summer camp." As he spoke, Jake mentally ran through his plans. He needed to bond more with the community, create a buzz that would welcome everyone to join the fair. So far, a few families had shown interest, but he needed more. The fair had to be about inclusion, and he felt an urgency to bridge gaps, to show that they could stand together. After Lily finished her breakfast, he sent her off to play with her friends. He grabbed his supplies and headed out, a determined spark gleaming in his eyes. The day was bright and lively, a perfect backdrop for his mission. Jake walked through the neighborhood, tighter knots of nerves swirling in his stomach. Each sidewalk felt like a path to opportunity. He approached the Andersons, who had moved into the neighborhood not long ago. They had twin girls, both bursting with energy. "Hi there," he called out, waving as he walked closer. "I'm working on a community fair to build a playground and would love your help." Mrs. Anderson paused mid-garden watering. "A playground? That sounds lovely. What can we do?" "Help spread the word," he exclaimed. "We'll need volunteers for games. Plus, other families might want to join. It's about building connections." Jake's heart swelled as she nodded, her enthusiasm igniting a flicker of hope within him. He left their porch, feeling lighter, a small victory tucked under his belt. The rest of the day passed in a blur of similar encounters. Word spread like seeds he had planted, and soon he was discussing colorful booths, sports challenges, and lots of delicious homemade treats with neighbors. Yet as the sun dipped lower in the sky, Jake felt his heart start to sink again. The excitement of the afternoon was still there, but a new worry crept in. What if people showed up, but there weren't enough activities to keep them engaged? What if his vision fell flat? Sitting on the park bench, he reflected on his own childhood. How many summers had he spent soaring on swings? Yet he had lost that joyous connection somewhere along the way. He needed to try harder, for himself and for Lily. He returned home, the creeping doubt replaced by a newfound determination. "We need more," he said aloud as he paced the living room. The images of swings and slides filled his mind. He pictured engaged families laughing, kids playing, friendships blooming. That evening, Jake mapped out a plan. He would organize team meetings with those who wanted to volunteer. They had to collaborate together, harness everyone's ideas. It wasn't about just him anymore, it was about the whole community lighting the spark of creativity. Lily peeked in, her curious eyes searching his face. "What's wrong, Daddy?" "Nothing's wrong, sweetheart." He smiled, a genuine warmth washing over him. "Actually, everything's about to get a lot better." She giggled, her laughter mingling with his hope and determination. As night fell, he sent out messages to every neighbor who had shown interest. But deep down, he questioned how he would handle it all. Could he truly inspire them to believe? And if they did come together, would they spark something truly magical at the fair? Something echoed in his heart. He wanted to transform not just the park, but their lives too. He couldn't lose sight of that reason behind it all. Tomorrow, he promised himself, he would fan the flames of connection wider than before. "Together, we can build something great," he whispered to himself. As he closed his eyes that night, he held on to the thought of that future fair, a beacon of hope lighting the path ahead. But would this hope be enough to rally the community into action? Or could it drown before it even began? The next morning, Jake woke with a renewed sense of purpose, the sunlight spilling into his room like a warm promise. Today felt different. He could almost taste the possibilities on the tip of his tongue. After sending Lily off to a friend's house for the day, he gathered all the papers and notes he had jotted down over the last few days. Each page was filled with ideas and names of the people who had offered their support. He focused on a particular note: community meeting. Today was the day he would invite everyone to discuss the fair and share their thoughts, dreams, and concerns. He felt a tremor of nervousness flutter in his chest. But every time he envisioned the smiles of children playing and families bonding, that anxiety turned into excitement. At noon, he set out to distribute flyers, his heart racing as he approached each door. "Hi. I'm Jake." He cheerily introduced himself, opening with the same enthusiasm he had brought to every conversation. Many wore skeptical expressions at first, but the passion in his voice began to chip away at their reservations. He could see a flicker of intrigue spark in their eyes when he spoke about the playground. "It'll be a place where our kids can laugh and play. Where we can come together as a community," he urged, gesturing animatedly. Gradually, he noticed people softening. Mrs. Thompson, an elderly lady who lived 2 houses down, even smiled and added, "Well, I do have some old toys we could donate." As the afternoon light dimmed, he stepped off the porch of yet another home, feeling lighter and somehow stronger. Words had the power to tally hope and ignite change. He had convinced some families to come to the meeting that evening. Later, Jake set up chairs in the community center, anxious but hopeful. He rehearsed what he would say over and over in his mind. He wanted them to see that this project was more than just a playground. It was a chance to reclaim the spirit of community. When people started to filter in, a warmth spread in his chest. Neighbors mingled, cautiously at first, but gradually the air filled with laughter and light chatter. He held his breath as he stood up to address the group, his heart roaring in his ears. "Thank you all for coming," he started, his voice trembling slightly. "We're here to talk about a fair, yes, but it's also about creating a space for our kids, a playground where friendships can flourish." As he shared ideas, more people began to contribute. Ideas flowed like a rushing stream: potluck dinners, craft stations, and even a local band playing music. The energy shifted, and the room buzzed with connection. But just as he felt the momentum gathering, a voice sliced through the excitement. It was Mr. Baker, a longtime resident, and known for his cynical outlook. "That all sounds nice, Jake, but what if it falls apart? You can't just expect people to show up." Silence hung in the air. Jake could feel the weight of that doubt pressing down on the room. For a moment, his enthusiasm wavered, but he knew this was a moment to reclaim. "Things do fall apart," he said, his voice clear and strong. "But that's part of building something together. We have to take that risk if we want to create something beautiful. I can't do this alone. We all have to be in this together. As he spoke, the tension shifted back. People began nodding, murmurs of agreement swirling around. Hours later, as Jake finished cleaning up the chairs, he felt a wave of relief and hope mingling inside him. They were coming together. But the clock ticked ominously. What if they started pulling together, but one person, Mr. Baker, still held them back? Later that night, Lily whispered goodnight, a comforting weight easing his weary heart. Would they truly be able to overcome their differences and unite for something so vital? Only time would tell. As he lay in bed, the echoes of laughter replaying in his mind, he wondered, is this the beginning of something greater, or just the calm before another storm? Jake's heart raced as he awoke the next morning. The community meeting lingered in his mind, a swirl of hope and uncertainty. He was up before dawn, the cool morning air seeping through the open window. He brewed a pot of coffee, each drip echoing in the quiet kitchen, the smell wrapping around him like a familiar hug. But he wasn't alone. The faces of his neighbors filled his thoughts. Their dreams and concerns ignited his determination. He grabbed a notepad and began jotting down thoughts. How could he harness this new energy? He wanted to reach more people, warm them up to the idea, make them feel the pulse of potential that was beginning to beat within the community. What started as a simple playground project now felt like a lifeline for connection. After Lily left for school, he packed a bag with more flyers. Maybe this time, he could catch people who hadn't made it to the meeting, those who still didn't know what was happening. He was a man on a mission. Every doorbell he rang felt like an invitation not just to his cause but to the community itself. He visited the local diner first. It was a gathering spot, a place where whispers turned into laughter. As he stepped inside, he was greeted by familiar faces. "Hey, Jake." "The usual?" asked Ginny, the waitress, with a bright smile and a coffee pot held high. "Actually, Ginny, I'm here for something else today. I want to talk about the playground project." Local regulars who had already heard about the meeting perked up. They could feel his enthusiasm. Jake quickly shared what had happened the night before, the excitement, the ideas, but also the doubt that lingered like a shadow from Mr. Baker. "I know we can make this happen, together." His voice cut through the chatter, drawing attention. "We need your support. It's not just about a playground, it's about community spirit." The diner erupted into conversations, ideas flying left and right as people began suggesting ways to help. Some offered to bake for fundraisers, while others promised to spread the word to more families. It was exactly what Jake needed: life, brightness, and purpose pouring from familiar faces. As lunch hour rolled in, the place filled up, and Jake's heart swelled with a mix of pride and gratitude. Little victories meant everything. In the middle of the buzz, he noticed Mr. Baker sitting at the back of the diner, his usual stern expression softened slightly. "You know, Jake," he called out, "I'll admit, I wasn't on board. But if you're serious about this, maybe I'll lend a hand." Jake grinned widely, an unexpected beam of hope. He had planted a seed of change in the most unlikely of places. Soon, Mr. Baker joined the conversation, sharing insights, even mapping out ways to connect with parents in the neighborhood. As Jake left the diner, the bustle of excitement and budding collaboration followed him out the door. He could feel something stirring, a promise that it could all come together. But deep down, he knew challenges lay ahead, especially pulling together resistant members. That evening, he called Lily over dinner, excitement bubbling in his chest. "You'll never guess what happened today." He shared everything, her eyes lighting up with each word as they talked about where they might go from here. As they finished the meal together, his phone buzzed. It was a group message from one of the neighbors. They were discussing safety concerns about the playground site. A knot formed in Jake's stomach. This could derail everything. With a determined grin, he looked at Lily. "Looks like tomorrow will be another busy day," he said, masking his worries with optimism. "But we'll figure it out." Lily smiled, oblivious to the weight Jake felt. "We will, Dad," she chirped. That night, as he prepared for bed, Jake couldn't shake the sense of unease building inside. When doubt crept in later, he wondered, could they truly conquer the obstacles ahead? Or was this just the beginning, another hurdle to leap before reaching their ultimate dream? As sleep finally claimed him, he felt the familiar churning in his gut. Tomorrow's challenges could be great, but the hope for the fair and for a playground had ignited something larger than himself. And that, more than anything, was worth the fight. Jake woke up before the sun rose, the pale light creeping through his curtains like a hesitant promise. As he stretched and shook off the weight of the doubts that had clouded his dreams, he brewed another pot of coffee, hoping today might be different. Breakfast was a quiet affair, with Lily still asleep in her room, unaware of the storm brewing in the neighborhood. With each cup poured, Jake's resolve solidified. The message about safety concerns loomed large in his mind. He put his hands around the warm mug, wishing he could somehow transfer the comfort into solutions for the very real fears of the neighborhood. After a quick shower, he dressed in his usual plaid shirt, its familiarity soothing his nerves. He gathered his flyers but paused. Maybe this wasn't just about distributing pamphlets, he needed to listen. Instead of heading back to the diner, he set out to the homes of those neighbors who had expressed the most doubts. Perhaps simply sharing a conversation would change hearts and minds. The first house he visited belonged to Mrs. Thompson, an elderly widow with a garden full of roses. Her door creaked open, and she beamed at him, the warmth in her eyes shining like the sun breaking through the clouds. "Jake, what brings you here?" she asked, arms crossed as she leaned against the door frame. "Morning, Mrs. Thompson. I just wanted to chat about the playground," he began, noticing the garden surrounding her had wilting petals. "I know there are worries, and I want to hear what you think." She sighed, the wrinkles on her brow deepening. "It's not about the play equipment, dear. It's about where you're planning to put it. That area isn't safe for children," she said, her concern palpable. "The road sees too much traffic, and I can't bear the thought of my neighbors getting hurt." Jake's heart sank. He had heard similar sentiments before, but hearing them directly from Mrs. Thompson hit harder. "I understand, and I appreciate you sharing that with me. We want to make it a place for kids to thrive, not a danger zone," he responded, searching for words to ease her fear. "What if we could work on that together?" She paused, regarding him closely. "What do you mean? What if we get some volunteers to plan for safety? Maybe we could host meetings to discuss ideas and involve everyone. We want this playground to be a space that parents feel confident about." Mrs. Thompson's expression softened. "That might be a start, dear." He could see the wheels turning in her mind. As he left her home, hope bloomed anew in his chest. He spent the afternoon knocking on doors, gathering stories and ideas. The more he listened, the more he understood that fears could transform into enthusiasm if handled the right way. Later that evening at dinner, he shared his experiences with Lily, excited to show her how a simple conversation could shift attitudes. "Today was a win, kiddo. Everyone's concerns matter. If we listen, we can build something great." "Like a superhero, Dad," she said, her eyes glimmering with admiration. Jake chuckled, grateful for her unwavering faith in him. But even as he grinned, he heard the silent whispers of doubt returning as he checked the messages on his phone. More neighbors chimed in with their skepticism, one even suggested he look into permits that would delay the project further. As bedtime approached, Jake sat on the edge of his bed, staring into the dim light. The weight of responsibility was heavy, and the uncertainties felt like boulders ready to roll down the hill at any moment. The dream of a safe place for kids seemed to shimmer just out of reach. Finally, he whispered to himself, "What if I could turn their fears into our strength?" With resolve, he knew what he had to do next. It was time to turn this into a community effort for better or worse, together they would fight for their dream. As he closed his eyes, fresh ideas formed, but he felt that familiar tension. Tomorrow was going to bring more than flyers and family meals. Would his strategies be enough to rally the neighborhood before they spiraled further into doubt? The thought nagged at him as he fell asleep, shadowed by worry but buoyed by a flicker of hope. Jake awoke to the smell of coffee brewing, the aroma wrapping around him like a comforting blanket. Sunlight streamed through the curtains, illuminating the room and spreading warmth. He felt a surge of renewed determination. Today could be a day when the tide began to turn. After breakfast, he grabbed a notepad and headed for the front porch. Lily was busy with her art supplies, creating a colorful masterpiece that sprawled across the table. Jake smiled, watching her concentrate, her tongue sticking out slightly as she mixed colors. But the image of Mrs. Thompson with her wilting roses popped into his mind. He couldn't shake the thought that her dream of safety was firmly rooted, demanding attention. "Hey, kiddo," he called out, getting her attention. "What do you think about coming with me today? I want to talk to some neighbors and hear their thoughts." Lily looked up, her blue eyes sparkling with excitement. "Can I bring my art supplies? I can draw for them." "Absolutely, let us show them how good a playground can be," Jake replied, feeling the shift in energy. Maybe Lily could help bridge the gap between fears and hope. As they walked through the neighborhood, Jake felt the weight of apprehension fall off him with each step. The plan was straightforward: meet the doubts face to face with not just words but a genuine spirit of community. Their first stop was the Martinez family. Maria, a single mom of 3, answered the door, her hair pulled back and a toddler clinging to her leg. Jake could see frustration behind her warm smile. "Hi, Jake. What do you need?" "Hey, Maria. Just wanted to touch base about the playground," he said, watching Lily set up her colors on a nearby bench. "I know some folks are worried about safety and I'd love to hear your thoughts." She sighed, crossing her arms. "I want my kids to have a place to play, but it feels like a risk. Some nights, it gets pretty rowdy around here, you know?" Jake nodded, remembering the echoes of laughter and shouts that sometimes turned to anger after dark. "I completely understand. What if we had a neighborhood watch? Or organized more evening activities to keep everyone engaged?" Maria's frown eased a bit. "That could help. Everyone feels afraid when they're alone." Jake was thrilled. "What if we get everyone together next weekend? Our kids can draw up ideas while we brainstorm improvements." Her eyes lit up. "I like that idea, Jake. If everyone contributes, it might just make a difference." As they continued down the street, Jake felt the sprouting seeds of hope taking root. Each encounter underscored that the fears of their community were valid, understanding them could breed solutions. When they reached the Peterson house, Dan flipped through the open window, his dog barking at Lily as she sat drawing. "What's this about a playground?" Jake took a deep breath. "We want to talk about making a safe space for the kids. I know there are concerns, but what about meeting every Saturday to discuss it? We can share ideas and support each other." Dan's expression lightened, the tension in his shoulders visibly easing. "That could work if we all chip in. I've got old tools and saws in the garage. Let us build something that lasts." Later that evening, as dusk descended, Jake felt lighter than he had in days. Each response bolstered his hope and his connections throughout the neighborhood were weaving tighter. They had turned from challenges to rallies, from anxiety to action. Sitting at the dining table, Lily showed him her colorful drawings. "This is my playground. And look, Dad. Everyone's playing together." Jake smiled, tracing the vibrant colors with his fingers. Everything felt possible. He quietly wondered, though, would enough neighbors show up this weekend? Would they bring their ideas and their fears in equal measure? As he tucked Lily into bed that night, that question loomed large. But when he kissed her goodnight, a quiet determination took hold. The chance to change the neighborhood narrative rested just ahead. What would happen at the first meeting? Would doubts finally give way to action, or would fear still lurk in the shadows? The sun broke through the horizon with a brilliant glow, illuminating Jake's determined face as he raced through his morning routine. Today was the day of the community meeting, and the thought sent a mix of excitement and anxiety coursing through him. The countless conversations he had with neighbors from the past few days lingered in his mind, a hopeful chorus of ideas wrapped in an unwavering commitment to reclaim their community. After sending Lily off with her art supplies, he gathered everything he needed: a stack of colorful flyers, sketches of the playground, and a strong sense of purpose. Jake arrived at the community center early, his heart pounding in rhythm with the ticking clock. He arranged chairs and positioned a large poster with the drawing Lily created depicting happy children playing and laughing, their faces radiating joy. It was a reminder of why he was doing all this. As the neighbors trickled in, apprehension hung in the air, but their curious faces soon illuminated with warmth. Jake welcomed each person, exchanging smiles and handshakes, and heartily thanked them for coming. The room filled with a buzz of conversation, and he could sense the hope underneath their hesitation. Once everyone settled, Jake took a deep breath and stood at the front, glancing over the sea of familiar faces. "Thank you all for being here today. I know there are fears and doubts regarding the playground project. But I believe we can work together to find solutions that honor our community and keep our children safe." He shared the stories he had collected from neighbors, addressing concerns about safety, noise, and the potential for misuse. And for each worry, he offered actionable ideas: increased lighting, engaging more with local law enforcement to ensure safety, and even community cleanup days. "Together, we can not only build a playground but revive the spirit of our town," he said, his voice rising with conviction. "Let us connect through our children and create a vibrant, safe environment for our families." Just as Jake began to feel the energy shift, Mr. Baker stood up again, his expression still cautious. "Jake, this sounds great, but how do we know this won't just be another project that fizzles out?" Jake remembered Lily's trust in him, her unyielding faith in their shared dreams. "We must hold each other accountable," he replied firmly. "I will organize weekly meetings, and we'll track our progress together. No one will be left behind. With everyone dedicated to this, we'll move mountains." A murmur swept the room. Doubts transformed into nodding heads, and conversations flared back to life. As the meeting continued, ideas flew around like confetti: bake sales, family game nights, volunteer days for building. It felt electric, a collective heartbeat coming alive right before his eyes. Jake felt the weight of moments passing and knew he was on the cusp of something remarkable. Hours later, they wrapped up with plans of coming together over the next few weekends. Jake left that meeting ignited with energy, his heart swelling with hope as families chatted outside. He felt Lily's spirit intertwining with his every step, pushing him forward. That evening, he tucked Lily into bed, her face glowing from the day they had shared. "Daddy, do you think the playground will be built soon?" she asked, sleep trying to win over her excitement. "Yes, sweetheart," he whispered, holding her close. "With everyone's help, I believe we can create something wonderful, just like you imagined." As he switched off the lights and closed the bedroom door, Jake felt the gravity of their journey had truly shifted. The neighborhood was ready to unite. A week later, Jake stood at the playground site, his chest filled with both pride and relief. The community had come together, laughter spilling through the air as families painted fences, set up games, and prepared for their first official fair. Neighbors moved with newfound determination, inspired, emboldened, and unified. Jake watched as Lily dashed through the play area, her joy infectious. She waved back at him, her drawing transformed into a tangible life. In that moment, he understood. The playground had become more than just a place for children to play. It was a symbol of connection, resilience, and hope. As evening settled in, laughter echoed across the playground, merging into a harmonious melody. Each voice, every single act of kindness contributed to a fabric they had woven together, stronger than before. Walking home that night, Jake felt lighter than he ever had. The coffee he once sipped alone had transformed into shared cups with neighbors and friends. He missed the presence of his late wife but felt her spirit mingling with their lives. Yes, obstacles would arise again, fear could still creep in. But together, hand in hand, they would confront anything that came their way. Their community was thriving, and the light of hope would shine in every corner of their little town for generations to come. With gratitude bursting from his heart, he knew this wasn't just the end, it was the beginning of a story still unfolding. If you enjoyed this incredible transformation, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Hit that like button right now to feed the algorithm and let others feel the joy of community. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this uplifting story instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Let us spread the hope together.